Howdy. This is the Views from the Schott podcast. I'm your host, your one and only host, Tim Miller. And if you watch me stare at the screen for about 15 seconds there before I realized what was going on, I thank you for watching even that. It is Tuesday. Technically, it is Tuesday, November 5th, 2024, and I wish you an early and very, very, very happy National Love Your Red Hair Day. We are excited because the Ohio State University Buckeyes are 1-0, picking up a big win over Texas tonight. We are live on YouTube. So if you're here, I have to ask, subscribe, and please like the video. Would like to get some traction on this. I don't think anyone else is on YouTube right now covering this very game, and that's what we're going to do. I'm going to shout out those who I see already in the chat. Brody Knows Ball, IO to you. Brian Cato, thanks for finishing the IO with Brody Knows Ball. Today, we are covering the Buckeyes win over Texas. Of course, it's a big one, and we'll talk about how big during this show, but not just that. We're going to cover kind of a breakdown and a recap of the first half of the second half, and I'm going to give out a game ball. This is going to be something I do new on the show this year where we do recap games. We're going to give out a game ball to the player I feel was the most valuable in the game, and then we'll close the show with some takeaways. So Ohio State picks up a big win in this one, 80-72. We probably could have stuffed more people in my living room to have a more exciting environment and simply have more people at the game. The stands looked absolutely empty there in Vegas, but apparently it didn't affect Ohio State's ability to win this game. They pick up a ranked win over number 19 Texas, and Texas is a very, very good team. So this is a big win for the Buckeyes to start 1-0 under Jake Diebler. The game started fast and furious, and the Buckeyes showed that they were going to be the first team to throw a punch, the first team to show that they were going to be aggressive in this one, and that really set the tone. As this game went on, it just felt like Texas could not hit shots while Ohio State would just kind of hit one more. Texas would take maybe a step forward and then two steps back, and Ohio State would take advantage. There were times in this game where Texas could have taken over, where they could have taken momentum, and they never did. And that has kind of been the story under Jake Diebler, coached Ohio State. This is his first game as the permanent, not the interim head coach for the Buckeyes. And we saw this against Purdue. The game was tight down the stretch last year, and Ohio State picks up that win. You saw it against Michigan State. It was tight down the stretch at Michigan State, and you pick up the win, and so on and so forth. As that season went on, under Jake Diebler, the Buckeyes looked good, and they were able to pick up the wins. So you head into this season, you hope that you can keep that momentum, and that is exactly what Ohio State did. They did it with Bruce Thornton. They did it with a freshman in Judy Mobley. They did it with players in your front court not necessarily playing well, at least those who started in this game, and they did it with a newcomer in Micah Parrish, who was extremely aggressive offensively for Ohio State, something I did not expect. So again, if you're just jumping into the show and you're watching live, please like this video, and please also subscribe if you haven't already. Follow on Twitter, follow on Instagram, of course, subscribe on YouTube. You can like and follow on Facebook even if you're there, and subscribe wherever you're getting your podcast as well. Okay. Let's get into this one. If you're going to hear some brief pauses, it's me sipping water. So I am normally asleep. I'm not joking. I'm normally asleep by 9:30 p.m. Eastern. It is 12:30 p.m. Eastern, and we are just now starting the show, and we're doing it live. Look here, all right? If you haven't liked this video and you just heard that fact, I don't know if you have a heart. I got to put it out there. I see comments coming in as well. I'm going to try to address these during the show. So let that be as it may. All right. So let's kick it off here with the first half. Where did Ohio State kind of start this game? It was a sprint. Ohio State clearly setting the tone early. Bruce Thornton makes the first points of the year for Ohio State with a three-pointer. Micah Parrish with a fadeaway two. I saw that shot. My jaw dropped a little bit. And, well, that was foreshadowing of things to come for Micah Parrish, who was very, very good in this one offensively, very aggressive. Parrish hits a three after that. Michi Johnson with a quick trigger triple. And Devin Royal also hits a three. We'll talk about Devin Royal. He was impressive in this one. The Buckeyes go up 14-7 early on in this one. Maybe that's a preview of the college football playoff. Just saying. Could be, especially after Ohio State's big win over Penn State on Saturday. Aaron Bradshaw wasn't shy either offensively, but he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat in this one. We'll talk about him in the front court specifically later on in this one. Early on, I think Michi Johnson, he struggled in this game overall. Defensively, I think he struggled as well. He gave up a few shots early on where some shots go in, one mid-range, one driving shot against a man that was just too big for him to guard, with Ohio State switching as much as it did defensively. And you also saw a bad foul when he was guarding Kendall Weaver as well. So those things happen. You get that. That was a concern I had coming into this year, was how good would Michi Johnson be defensively? In this one, he wasn't great. And you saw that early on. But as this game progresses and you look at the rotation, Ohio State starts to look like they're a little uncomfortable. Quez Glover gets in there. Judy Mobley gets in there with Bruce Thornton, by the way. That's something to note. We saw Bruce Thornton, Judy Mobley, or John Mobley Jr., however you want to call him, and Quez Glover on the floor all at the same time. That's three guards, not a lot of size. Jake Diebler was okay with it. Mobley, very, very quickly, he looked just minorly shell-shocked. He got his first touch, didn't look the most comfortable. After that, he quickly makes a three-pointer from a California zip code, I do believe. Glover had an early travel in this one. You're just trying to knock off the rust. Yeah, you get some run against Iowa. You get some run against Cincinnati, or not Iowa, Ohio, and some run against Cincinnati in exhibitions, but it's not the same as being in a live game. So that happens. And then as this rotation gets deeper, my first surprise of the game, it was Austin Parks, who was actually in before Evan Mahaffey, only by a few seconds, I believe. Mahaffey comes in right after. And Austin Parks, he walls up defensively. Mahaffey picks up a couple of early offensive rebounds, almost like I predicted what Evan Mahaffey's role could be this year. Look at his stat line for more details on that. And Ohio State doesn't crumble under the pressure of having their starters out of there. They played well overall, I think. And Evan Mahaffey, he had 3 points and he had 8 rebounds. What a stat line for Evan Mahaffey. Again, Evan Mahaffey, he is your father's favorite player. That's who he is. So they played pretty well there. And then at one point, you start to feel really good about Ohio State. They're up 21-16. You get through that first rotation. Starters are starting to get it funneled back in. And when that's the case, you feel good, especially with the pace Ohio State was playing at. I got to turn the vibration off of my phone or I'm going to get angry. But overall, I think that Ohio State did look really good once you go from getting those starters out and getting those role players back in. And then the Buckeyes get a chance with their starters back in. They get a chance to really extend this lead. And that's kind of what they did. The Buckeyes go on a little bit of a cold spell. They missed 5 field goal attempts in a row. The extended pressure, I think, was hurting the guards at that point from Texas. But Judy Mobley, he ends the drought. The difference in just a few minutes between Judy Mobley this season compared to Tayson Chapman last year as a freshman was instantly notable. Again, Tayson Chapman as a freshman had some growing pains. He played well to close the year. But when he stepped in as a freshman at Ohio State, he was very timid. He didn't look to score. He didn't look like a threat offensively for Ohio State. What did Judy Mobley do in the first couple minutes of him being in? He rips in a three, he rips in another three, and he's making these shots from, I don't know, somewhere in Idaho, potentially. Zip code not provided, but it was from a long ways away. So Mobley comes in. Not only is he making shots, but he's ending a drought. Who were the drought enders last year for Ohio State? Bruce Thornton? Roddy Gale sometimes? outside of that, you didn't really have a lot of faith in guys other than like a Bruce Thornton and a Jameson battle. Instantly, you have a freshman coming in and making an impact and ending a drought for Ohio State. And we know instantly it didn't take the entire game for us to make this draw this conclusion. We know Junie Mobley Jr. is going to be a bucket getter for Ohio State this season. He's going to make a real impact. Ohio State, out of its first 10 field goals made, 9 of those come from behind the three-point line. This was a major question for me coming into the season. How good is Ohio State going to be from behind the three-point line? They've got guys who can space the floor. They've got guys who can run up and down the floor. But percentage-wise, this hasn't been a team that's been all that good from behind the three-point line individually. Sean Stewart, he attempted a three-pointer tonight. It was more than he took all last season. He missed it, but for the most part, Ohio State shot really well. And at this point, all of their shots coming from behind the three-point line. Texas goes over 5 minutes without scoring. Both teams at this point, and I tweeted this out, both teams that felt like were playing with pace, but only one team was playing under control, and that was Ohio State. It was a 12-0 run for Ohio State at that point. Texas able to battle back, though. Ohio State would go scoreless for over 4 minutes. Texas cuts that lead down to 5, and Jake Diebler takes a timeout. And this is where it's you're the head coach. It's your job. You've got to stop runs. You've got to use your timeouts effectively. I think it was time for a timeout there. Diebler takes it, and immediately Bruce Thornton out of the timeout. He gets the ball into the paint, and he finds Micah Parrish open for a 3. Trey Johnson answers back for Texas with a 3. He was phenomenal in that game. If it wasn't for Trey Johnson, where would Texas have been in this game? It's hard to say. Probably still losing for sure, but maybe by 15 points. Trey Johnson was really good for Texas. He was really the only source of offense. Sean Stewart would get the ball inside. He gets fouled. And at that point, during the cold stretch to close out that first half, I wanted the ball more in the paint. I wanted more looks in the paint. I wanted, Devin Royal, who played well in this one, more looks for him. Sean Stewart, Aaron Bradshaw, not giving you a lot. Just try to get the ball into the paint and stop forcing up. Not forcing up, but just don't force yourself to be a three-point making team only. So that said, Devin Royal would hit a shot from the free throw line. It's the EJ Liddell special shot where you pull up, you hit it from the charity stripe, and you feel okay going in the half. Ohio State leads this one 38-31 at the half. They made 12 field goals in the first half. 10 of them were three-pointers. So a one-dimensional offense in the first half, something that I guess you'll take. You probably don't love it, but it is what it is. And I see some comments here on Aaron Bradshaw. I'll get to that in a second. Bradshaw is soft. Amir Williams 2.0. Even Stewart looked mid. Guards looked really good, though, and Royal stepped up big time. Yeah, we'll talk about the front court and the back court for sure. But this was a solid win for Ohio State. So we go into the second half. Sorry, I'm curious about comments, so I gotta comment on them at some point, and now I gotta take a sip of water. Now, this is carbonated water, but it's been in the fridge all day, so it's flat. So you win some, you lose some. So you get into the second half. Devin Royal starting in the second half over Sean Stewart. I don't know if he had 3 fouls at halftime. He had at least 2, I believe. And Royal gets to start in the second half. He immediately scores. Trey Johnson answers with a deep 3. You cut that lead down to 4. This is the first gut check time for Ohio State, because the most important part of every game is how you close a half and how you open a half. Texas, they closed the half pretty strong against Ohio State, and then you open up the second half, and again, I think that you see Texas having a chance to really take some momentum in this one, but Ohio State really didn't allow it. Evan Mahaffey comes in for Devin Royal after 2 minutes in the second half. Stewart's still there on the bench, but the points in the paint start to ramp up, which is something that I wanted to see from Ohio State. In this one, Michi Johnson finds Evan Mahaffey. Micah Parrish finds Aaron Bradshaw. Parrish, again, and the very next possession, he makes a driving layup, and the Buckeyes are up 46-39 with 15:30 left in the game. Again, you feel good about where you're at, but Texas is still close enough. They're within striking distance to be able to get closer in this game, but Junie inserted in the second half immediately. He hits a 3. Immediately after that, he gets beat on the defensive end. This is going to be a conversation all year. You're going to have to take the growing pains from Junie Mobley this year. He's perfect from three today. He's probably not going to be perfect all year from three. Bold prediction, I know, but he's going to have some growing pains on the defensive end. You just hope that what he can provide offensively offsets what mistakes may come defensively. So he gets beat immediately, and then you've got some defensive struggles. Michi is too reachy. Sorry, had to say it. He had 3 fouls pretty quickly into the second half. Sean Stewart, Aaron Bradshaw each had 3 fouls at the halfway point of the second half. And there are a couple points here where Texas starts to feel momentum shifting. It's 54-49 with 10:50 remaining. Micah Parrish out of a timeout. He gets fouled on a 3-point attempt. He makes all 3 of his free throws. Texas on the other end misses a 3-pointer. Ohio State gives the ball back. Texas then fouled on a 3-pointer. Trey Johnson hits all 3 of his free throw attempts. And then Micah Parrish, he misses a really, really smooth-looking layup attempt, but Devin Royal is there to clean it up. Devin Royal, the janitor. If Evan Mahaffey is your father's favorite player this year, Devin Royal is going to be known as the janitor. He's cleaning everything up for Ohio State. He does it again. And again, Texas has a chance to take the momentum, but I say this sequence because it was so important that Texas had a shot. Didn't matter. Ohio State kept the momentum on its side and kept a good lead in this one. For the most part, Texas would cut the lead down to 3. Devin Royal scoops up a loose ball, hits a floater. Another big shot from Devin Royal. He was huge in this one. And this was another time where it was truly gut check time for Ohio State. It felt like Texas was one big shot away from taking the momentum. And what happens? Well, out of a timeout, Texas hammers home a dunk. Micah Parrish responds. He makes a trifecta. No points for Texas on the next possession, and Ohio State making a few more shots when needed than Texas continues to not necessarily pull away, but just continue to stiff arm Texas away from really feeling like it had a chance. And a lot of these 3-point attempts out of Texas, whether by merit of Ohio State's defense or just poor looks for Texas, those 3-point shots did not look good. A lot of times they look desperate. And this was something that we talked about in the game preview. It was Texas, their shot quality. At times last year, it was lackluster. In this one, I think it bit them in the butt. So the Buckeyes able to pick up the win in this one. Micah Parrish leaves the game with an apparent lower body injury. I would expect him to be okay at this point, but the Buckeyes pick up the win 80-62. So a big one for Ohio State. How about a game ball? I'm going to give away a game ball now. It feels right. It feels like something we should do for every show. I need to sip water. It's tangerine flavored. It's fine. So the game ball we're going to hand out in this one. Look, let me define the parameters of the game ball before I hand it out. I have no ball in my hands. Promise. The parameters for a game ball, it doesn't mean you had the best game. It means you had the greatest impact above expectation. Okay? So if Bruce Thornton comes in here and he scores 20 points, that's a great game. You would expect that out of Bruce Thornton, who had the greatest impact over expectation and who led you, had the biggest impact on you winning the game. And I think that is the player who I dubbed as the X factor this year for Ohio State, and that is John Mobley Jr., Judy Mobley. Judy Mobley, the ceiling is so much higher if Judy Mobley can reach that 90th percentile type of player that he can be this year. He affects Ohio State's ceiling more than anyone else on this team, more than Aaron Bradshaw, more than Sean Stewart. It doesn't matter. Judy Mobley is the most important player for Ohio State this season when it comes to reaching your fullest potential because he has so much potential in and of himself. He gets a game ball today. He had 14 points in 13 minutes. Go ahead, look at cbbanalytics.com. At the end of this game, you can sign up, by the way, for an account, get a paid account, use the code Schott. Link is in the bio, as always, and in the description of this video. Use the code Schott. You'll get an entire month free. And you'll have access to these stats, including points per 40 minutes. Judy Mobley is probably going to be 100th percentile by the time it's all said and done. 14 points in 13 minutes. He didn't miss a three. Goes 4 of 4 from deep. Yeah, his defense could have been better. Yeah, he had some freshman moments. I'm afraid I don't really give a crap. You come in as a freshman playing in Las Vegas, obviously the best location in the world to start a game. Location, time. I mean, did the college basketball gods get this right or what? We're going to play this game at 10 Eastern, 9 Central. So you're tipping off at 10, 9 Central. Local time, this game is not over until literally the next day or a few minutes before the next day if you're in Texas. That's the fan bases. Ohio State, Texas. Most of these on the Eastern and Central time zone. Thank you, college basketball. Let's play in an empty arena in Vegas while we're at it. So that's great. Junie Mobley steps into this environment and he plays well early on for Ohio State. He was huge for the Buckeyes, lifted them a couple times when they needed a bucket. Junie Mobley, big for Ohio State. He gets our game ball. All right, as a reminder, this show sponsored exclusively by College Basketball Analytics. You can go to cbbanalytics.com right now. What else do you have to do? If you're here live, what else do you have to do? I just got a message from a DM from a source. We'll say they're pleased with how this game went, so that's good. Buckeyes want to know. We're happy about that. This show, again, sponsored by College Basketball Analytics. Go to cbbanalytics.com right now. Use the code SCHOTT, that's SCHOTT, to get an entire month free. That's a $30 value. Save yourself some money and enjoy some stats as well in analytics. They're the best in the business. I'm just going to say it. I use them for every single show, whether it be a preview or a recap show. We thank CBB Analytics for sponsoring not just today's show, but the entire Views from the Schott 2024-25 season. All right, so we got some takeaways, and this is where, there's some comments here, people upset. By the way, reminder, if you're here watching, please like the video. If you haven't already, click that thumbs up and subscribe. If you're not subscribed, tell your friends about the show and all that. And if you're listening on podcast, how about a 5-star review? What's the worst that could happen if you give a 5-star review after Ohio State is 1-0? I can't think of much. Takeaways in this one, okay? This is where we're going to address some comments. So number one, I don't like to be negative, but sometimes you just got to be realistic. What happens in this game if those 3-pointers don't fall for Ohio State? So the Buckeyes go 14 of 28 from deep. We remember what they did in the first half. 12 made field goals, 10 of those from behind the arc. What happens if Ohio State can't hit those shots? What happens if the shots aren't falling for Micah Parrish, for Bruce Thornton, for Junie Mobley specifically? There's going to be nights where Ohio State runs into that, and that could end up being an issue. Texas, on the other hand, they go 7 of 28 from the 3-point line, 25%. That's not good enough to win, especially against a team like Ohio State, and really any team that is in the power, what are we now? Power 5 in college basketball conferences. That's not good enough. But if Texas makes a few more shots, if Ohio State misses a few more shots, which they didn't, so do we really care? You may not. I do. I'm a little concerned about how Ohio State scored tonight. In the second half, they were able to score in the paint a little bit more. But if this is a team that goes 11 of 28 from deep, for example, that's 9 less points. And guess what? You just lost this game by 1 point. So just 3 less made 3-pointers. 2 less made in the second half, 1 less made in the first half. We're looking at maybe a somber first show to recap the first Ohio State basketball game of the season. So that's something that we should keep an eye on. They're going to play Youngstown State next. They'll have a chance to beat up on them and fix some things, but you got to go play Texas A&M next Friday, and that's at Texas A&M. It's going to be a tough environment. The good thing, I think this does matter a little bit. Those fans still focused on football. If you're a Texas A&M fan, Ohio State fans focus on or football as well, of course. But that means something in terms of the environment. Regardless, it's going to be a tough matchup. And you're going to play a team in Texas A&M with Wade Taylor who can fire threes in from deep, from anywhere on the floor. That's going to be a good test for the Buckeyes. So what happens if those 3-pointers don't fall? We don't need to find out tonight, and that's a good thing. So let's address the front court. The front court was not good, at least when it comes to the starters today. So if you combine your 2 starters, Sean Stewart and Aaron Bradshaw, here's what you get. Well, first of all, you get a bunch of foul trouble. How many fouls did these guys actually come up with? I don't know. Okay, so both have 4 fouls. Both suffer 4 fouls. That's an issue, obviously. We knew coming into this, Aaron Bradshaw coming into the season, Foul trouble for him was going to be a concern. You have 4 fouls in this one. That's not good. Sean Stewart didn't really deal with as much foul trouble last season, but when both of your starting front court players have 4 fouls, that's concerning. Sean Stewart, he had an offensive foul late. He was just out of control. That's undisciplined basketball as you drive to the rim. He wasn't good enough. The two players combined for 4 points, 5 combined rebounds from your starting 4 and 5, and 1 of 8 from the field. Let's just be honest here, okay? It's just you and I and a few other friends. It's okay. The front court was bad tonight, and you can't expect to win games if neither of these players can consistently be good. You can scrape by against Texas, who is without maybe their best player in Tremont Mark, at least their second best player. And this front court, you look at Sean Stewart, inconsistent at times last year. Aaron Bradshaw, inconsistent at times last year. Both of them, the Burger Boys, former McDonald's All-American players, former 5-star recruits. Your guess is that you're going to hit on one of these guys. It's one game. It's such a small sample size. It really doesn't matter, but it's something to where you're kind of raising the yellow flag now. Can you trust Aaron Bradshaw? Can you trust Sean Stewart? Sean Stewart, for what it's worth, his ability to land screens in this one, he looked good. He rolled a lot. A lot of times we saw some slip action as well, and he was open. The guards didn't really look to him. We'll see against Youngstown State if that's something that they decide they want to target against Youngstown State and against Texas A&M. Texas A&M has a good front court, but both of these guys overall were not good enough. Sean Stewart didn't really get a lot of looks. Let's see. I mean, they combined for 1 of 8. I don't think Sean Stewart had many field goal attempts in this one. He was 0 of 3. Aaron Bradshaw did. 1 of 5. He was 0 of 2 from the 3-point line. And Aaron Bradshaw, he had the looks and some shots that you'd like to see him make. Defensively, again, the foul trouble was an issue. So you need those guys to be better. I think that they can be better for sure. But the fact that Ohio State won a game over a top 15, top 10, top 20 team in Texas without your 2 starting front court players being any good, being of any use, makes you wonder how good can this team be if one of those guys, or even if they both, are on moving forward. Another takeaway from this one, Austin Parks apparently is going to play over Ivan Nigovan. I predicted the opposite. I thought that if you're looking at that 5th player in the front court, I figured it would be Ivan Nigovan simply because he's a better fit for this play style that Jake Diebler desires. Apparently, it doesn't matter. Austin Parks has, at least as of now, kind of supplanted Ivan Nigovan. I did not expect any kind of regular playing time for Nigovan. I just expected him to be the 5th guy off the bench in the front court. Instead, it's going to be Austin Parks. He plays in 6 minutes. Is that real? Is that number right? Pause. Please hold. 6 minutes in this one. He had 1 rebound. He missed a layup / dunk attempt. Big deal, but he had 6 minutes. It's surprising to see that. So we'll monitor that moving forward. That's all I have to say about that. Defensively, a lot of switching. So first of all, you have the versatility, I think, to do that. Sean Stewart, very athletic. He can go out and he can guard guards. He can guard players in the front court, go to the 3-point line. Don't know about that with Aaron Bradshaw. Don't know about that with Devin Royal. Maybe a little bit with Evan Mahaffey. We'll see. But you see a little bit of positionless basketball being played defensively. The issue is you're leaving your guards to be in really vulnerable spots. You saw that with Michi Johnson. You saw that with John Mobley Jr. I don't know how to refer to him at this point. I've always called him Junie. On the broadcast, they're calling him John Mobley Jr. They're also calling Evan Mahaffey. And unless I've been taking crazy pills for the past year, I've always understood it to be Mahaffey. So there's that. Regardless, some players being left on an island, being left to guard bigger guys. You need to see some rotations. You need to see some help defense down at the rim, or these guards are going to get cooked defensively. If you're going to switch that much, you've got to be able to provide the help and rotate when needed. Didn't see it as much tonight. That's something to keep an eye on moving forward. All right. Junie Mobley, he is comfortable. I've already talked about it. I've given him the game ball, talked about him at length as we recap this game. Again, yeah, he had some poor stretches, but he is not timid. He is not afraid. He is not fretful or frightful. When the ball is in his hands, he's aggressive. He's willing to score. And I'm telling you, if that continues, if Junie Mobley can step up and continue to be that guy, even if he's not, I'm not going to ask him to make 4 threes per game, but if you can consistently see over 2 3-pointers on average made per game, man, it's going to lift Ohio State's offense. He was really good. He needs to be better defensively. He needs to earn the trust of the coaching staff defensively. But at this point, game number 1, he looked great. Micah Parrish was very aggressive, far more aggressive than I expected in this one. Almost too aggressive at times, I'd even say. He tied for the most field goal attempts with Devin Royal. Who expected that? Can we have a prop for the most field goal attempts by a player in this game for Ohio State? You're probably thinking Bruce Thornton. You're probably thinking Michi Johnson. Devin Royal coming off the bench and Micah Parrish with the most field goal attempts in this one. Now, Parrish, he goes 5 of 11, and he goes 3 of 6 from the three-point line. So he was effective and he was efficient in this one, and he was ready to fire away, which I honestly didn't hate. I thought he looked really good. I think you also have to give a special shout out to Devin Royal in this one as well. I feel like I haven't talked to him about him all that much. 16 points. I mean, he was 3rd on the team in scoring, 3 rebounds, 7 of 11 from the field. Very, very good. 2 of 4 from the three-point line. He's worked on that three-point shot, obviously, in the offseason. Everyone on this roster has. It's been a requirement under Jake Diebler, but he looked good. He played in 25 minutes in this one. Sean Stewart played in 13 minutes. You'll wonder, I don't know. I have no intel on this, and from what I've understood, Aaron Bradshaw, Sean Stewart have kind of been the guys in the front court impressing through the preseason. Maybe Devin Royal does get a chance to start this year for Ohio State at some point. Evan Mahaffey deserves some love, 8 rebounds, just trying to spread some love around. Michi Johnson wasn't great in this one. He'll get his time, I'm sure, at some point. But overall, really impressed. 4 guys are really major contributors offensively. You don't get a lot out of that, but tonight it worked, and we can be happy with that. All right. Last takeaway here, and then we can go to bed. It's just after 1 a.m. as time of recording. I'm going to hit some of these comments as well before we head out of here, so don't leave just yet. This is a huge step forward for Ohio State. So Jake Diebler, he leads his team to 8-3 last season. We've talked about it before. We know it. The win over Purdue, the buzzer-beating win over Michigan State, picking up a couple wins in the NIT, picking up a win in the Big Ten tournament, picking up a crushing win over Michigan, going on the road to beat Rutgers when you needed that game to try to have any chance of being on the bubble as you headed into the Big Ten tournament. All of that stuff happens, and you wonder, even with a lot of roster turnover, can this team be as good as it was down the stretch last year? So much turnover. 4 out of the 5 starters are brand new. Evan Mahaffey, no longer a starter. He hits the bench. Jamison Battle's gone. Who's going to be your 3-point sniper this year? That was a major question I have. It appears that's going to be Junie Mobley after one game. You don't want to overreact, but he looked really, really good. Overall, this is a huge step forward, and it is a proven continuation of success from last season under Jake Diebler. The expectation that I had for Ohio State coming into this season was 18 wins, 13 losses in the regular season, and an 8 seed in the NCAA tournament. This team could be a whole lot better than that. The potential is there, and to pick up this win over Texas with a brand new roster, a brand new head coach, a brand new coaching staff, all of that at play, and did you dominate Texas? Maybe, but you controlled this game from the onset. I don't even know if did Ohio State ever trail in this one? I don't know if the CBS Sports app is going to tell me that. Just hold for a second, please. Someone tell me in the comments, did Ohio State ever trail in this game? I'm not joking. Someone please tell me. And you know what? I'm willing for you to lie to me if it helps my narrative. I don't care. Let me check the comments. Anyone say anything? No. I see a no. Ohio State never trailed in this game. I'm pretty sure I'm not crazy on that. Against Texas, against a top 15, top 20 team in the nation. And they did it with poor play from the front court. This was not Ohio State's best game of the season. if you're going to tell me that that's what you're getting game one out of a Jake Diebler-led Ohio State basketball team with so much more motion, with so much more action, so much more screening, so much more cutting, so much more off-ball movement. You're not dribbling the air out of the basketball. You're sharing the ball. You're getting good shots up for your teammates. There's a lot of potential on this team. So we've got to see. We've got to see what happens against Youngstown State, and we've got to see what happens, especially against Texas A&M in about a week and a half. But after that Texas A&M game, you're going to have 2 games against really, really good teams. It's early on in the year, but if you're 3-0 at that point, first of all, Ohio State's probably going to be ranked in the AP poll after this week. You never know. I don't care about the AP poll. Those guys are box score watchers. They don't actually watch the games. They say, oh, Ohio State beat Texas by 8. Cool. That's fine. Probably a close game. Ohio State was up by 3, 4. No one is going to know really that Ohio State never trailed in this one. That's just a fact of the box score watchers who are AP voters. We don't care what they have to say. So there's that. However, for all intents and purposes, Ohio State is a top 25 team to me at this point. They looked really, really good, beating a really, really good team. And you can now, I give you permission, raise the expectations. Ohio State, I expected 8 seed. Now I'm thinking maybe 7 seed. I know it's a huge jump, 4 whole spots. I get it, but it could be possible for the Buckeyes. So really, really good performance in this one, I think, overall for Ohio State. It wasn't their best performance. We're going to see better play out of them, but overall, impressed with Ohio State picking up this win over Texas. I'm scanning some comments here. If you have a question, if you've got thoughts, feel free to throw that in here before we close out. Now, if you're listening on podcast, you can always watch live. My plan is to do several live post-game shows after Ohio State games, just so you're aware. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of people are going to listen to the podcast. That's where most of the listenership comes from, and I'm perfectly okay with that. Make sure you're subscribed, give a 5-star review as well. But thanks for being here. It's past 1 a.m. I want to go to bed. I want to go to sleep. I'm tired. I hope you're going to sleep too. And if you're listening on Tuesday, for example, then hey, well, Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, thanks for listening. Truly, thanks to everyone for listening and watching. It's going to be a great year covering this team yet again. Excited to do it. So we will be back. So Ohio State, unless I'm crazy again, which I'm using that term way too much, and it's bothering me. I can't imagine how unbearable it must be for you. So Ohio State is going to play Youngstown State in a week. I don't know what the schedule is going to look like this week. Probably going to come out maybe with another live show on Sunday. Got to get another show out this week, of course. So we will be sure to do that. So keep an eye on that as well. We'll continue to cover this team, hopefully better than anyone else can. I'm going to shut up before you shut me off. I appreciate you listening to today's show, and go Bucs.